The last healer in Ravenmoor shouldn't be scrubbing floors, but here Lirelei was, her cracked hands bleeding into the dirty water as she cleaned the temple steps at midnight. The high priestess had made it clear unwanted orphans who couldn't manifest proper healing gifts deserved nothing more than servants' work. Missed a spot, cursed one, sneered Thessaly, dumping her ceremonial wine deliberately across the stones Lirelei had just cleaned. The purple liquid spread like blood under the moon. The goddess speaks through me, and she says you'll clean it again. Properly this time. Lirelei's stomach cramped with hunger 3 days since her last meal. Punishment for accidentally healing a crow when the other novices were watching. Healing animals was forbidden, considered a perversion of their sacred gifts, meant only for wolves in their human forms. But she couldn't help what her hands did when they touched suffering. The winter wind cut through her threadbare robes as she started over, knowing the sunrise ceremony was in 3 hours. If the steps weren't spotless, the high priestess would finally have the excuse she'd been seeking to cast Lirelei out into the thornwood where lone humans rarely survived the night. Strange, she thought, how they worship the moon goddess but fear her truest gifts. Her peculiar abilities had manifested backward since childhood. While the temple's blessed healers could mend wolves and shifters with elaborate rituals and expensive herbs, Lirelei's touch worked only on what others deemed unworthy injured rabbits, broken-winged birds, diseased trees. The one time she'd tried to heal the beta's son, her hands had burned with rejection, leaving angry marks that took weeks to fade. The goddess marks the cursed. The high priestess had declared that day, ensuring everyone knew Lirelei bore the shame of rejected power. Thunder rumbled across the mountains, unusual for winter. The other novices would be warm in their beds, preparing for tomorrow's sacred hunt, where the kingdom's unmated wolves would run beneath the full moon. Lirelei would watch from the temple steps. As always, no wolf would ever want a mate who couldn't heal their kind. As she wrung out her cloth, a sound pierced the night, not quite howl, not quite scream. Every hair on her body stood on end. She'd heard wolves in pain before, but this was different. This was agony that called to something deep in her bones. "It's not your concern," she whispered to herself, repeating the high priestess's constant reminder. "You are nothing to them." But the sound came again, closer now, from the thornwood's edge. A wounded animal, by the labored breathing she could hear on the wind. Her hands began to burn, not with rejection this time, but with desperate need, a pulling so strong she dropped the bucket, water cascading down the sacred steps. No. If they catch you leaving your post, helping another creature, a third cry, weaker now, whatever was out there, was dying. Lirelei glanced at the temple. In 3 hours, they'd find the steps unfinished. She'd be exiled anyway. At least this way, she'd know she tried to save something first. Her hands were already moving, grabbing the forbidden medical supplies she'd hidden beneath the altar months ago. Bandages stolen one at a time, herbs gathered in secret, to needles she'd found, discarded after the worthy healer's work. The thornwood loomed like a wall of darkness beyond the temple grounds. Ancient magic lived in those trees, older than the kingdoms, older than the first wolves. They said the Alpha King himself wouldn't enter the thornwood alone, too many shadows that didn't follow natural law. But Lirelei had nothing left to lose. Tomorrow she'd be cast out regardless. Tonight, maybe her cursed hands could save one life before her own ended. She stepped off the sacred ground into the wild darkness, following the sound of labored breathing. The tree branches seemed to part for her, creating a path illuminated by strange phosphorescent moss. Then she saw it, a massive black wolf, larger than any she'd ever seen, with 3 silver arrows buried deep in its side. Its fur gleamed like liquid shadow, and even dying, It radiated power that made her knees weak. But it was the wolf's eyes that stopped her heart, ancient gold, filled with intelligence that was wholly human, wholly other, and fixed directly on her as if it had been waiting. As if it had been calling specifically for her. The black wolf's blood pooled beneath it, steaming in the winter air with unnatural heat. Lirelei approached slowly, her healer's instincts warring with every lesson beaten into her at the temple. This was clearly a shifted wolf, one of the kingdom's warriors, and her touch had only ever brought them pain. "I can't," she whispered, even as her feet carried her closer. "I'm not a real healer. I'll hurt you worse." The wolf's eyes never left hers. With visible effort, it lifted its massive head and nudged one of the arrows, whimpering. The sound shattered something in Lirelei's chest. Real healer or not, she couldn't watch anything suffer like this. "These are silver-tipped," she breathed, recognizing the craftsmanship. Wolfsbane, coated. Who would? This is attempted assassination. The wolf's breathing grew shallower. Blood frothed at its muzzle. The arrows had pierced deep, possibly into lungs. Even the temple's finest healers would struggle with such wounds. But as Lirelei knelt beside the beast, something extraordinary happened. Her hands, which always burned with rejection near wolves, began to glow with soft golden light. The wolf pressed into her touch, rumbling not a growl, but almost a purr. "Impossible," she gasped. Her hands had never been accepted by wolfkind before. "You're letting me in." Working quickly, she examined the first arrow. The silver had already poisoned the surrounding tissue, black veins spreading from the wound. Standard healing would demand careful extraction, herbs, ritual chanting. But Lirelei had none of these proper tools, only her strange backward gift. "This will hurt," she warned, gripping the arrow shaft. "I'm sorry." She pulled. The wolf's body convulsed, a howl tearing from its throat that seemed to shake the very trees. But her hands were already moving, that golden glow intensifying as she pressed them to the wound. She felt the moment her power connected, not the searing rejection she'd always known, but a clicking into place, like finding a piece of herself she hadn't known was missing. The poisoned flesh began to knit, black veins retreating as her light chased them away. The wolf's eyes widened, staring at her with something like recognition. "Two more," she murmured, already reaching for the second arrow. "Stay with me." As she worked, she became aware of other sounds in the forest, snapping twigs, heavy breathing. They weren't alone. Her hands trembled but didn't stop. She could feel the wolf's heartbeat weakening. The second arrow came free with a wet sound that made her stomach turn. Again, her hands moved instinctively, pouring that strange golden light into the wound. But this time, she felt something flow back, a presence, ancient and powerful, touching her mind. "Mine," it whispered, finally. "What?" she gasped, but there was no time. The third arrow was the deepest, dangerously close to the heart. One wrong move would mean instant death. The watching presence in the forest grew closer. She heard growls now, multiple wolves surrounding them. The black wolf's pack? Or his enemies? "I need more time," she pleaded to the shadows. "Just a few more minutes." The black wolf's eyes flickered to something behind her, and it snarled, weak but warning. Lirelei turned to see 3 gray wolves emerging from the trees, their eyes glowing red with bloodlust. Not pack. Enemies. Finish the job. One shifted to human form, a scarred male she didn't recognize. "The pretender king dies tonight." "King?" Lirelei's hands froze. She looked down at the black wolf, its size, its presence, the way even dying it commanded attention. "No, It couldn't be. Step away, temple girl, the scarred man commanded. Unless you want to die with the tyrant. But Liralay's hands were already moving, gripping the third arrow. Something had awakened in her the moment she'd touched this wolf. Something that roared against the thought of letting him die. No, she said quietly. What did you say? I said no, her voice stronger now. I don't know who you are or why you're doing this, but I won't let you kill him. The scarred man laughed. A cursed healer thinks she can stop us? The high priestess will reward us for killing you too. She's complained about you for years. So the temple was part of this. The betrayal stung, but not as much as it should have. Liralai had never belonged there anyway. The gray wolves advanced. The black wolf tried to rise, to protect her, but collapsed, the third arrow shifting dangerously near his heart. That's when Liralai did something she'd never done before. She pulled the arrow while pouring every ounce of her power through her hands, not caring if it killed her. Golden light exploded from her palms, not gentle healing light but something fierce, protective, primal. The gray wolves yelped, stumbling back. The scarred man's eyes widened in shock. Impossible. You're just accursed. His words cut off as the black wolf rose. Not wounded, not weak, fully healed, its massive form radiating dark power that made the air itself bend. It stepped in front of Liralai, shielding her with its body, and howled a sound that didn't just echo through the forest but through dimensions, calling something ancient and terrible. The gray wolves fled instantly, shifting and running. The scarred man backed away, face pale. This isn't over, false king. The council! The black wolf lunged, not to kill, just one swipe that marked the man's face, marking him as traitor for all to see. The man ran, crashing through the underbrush. Then the wolf turned to Liralai, and her heart stopped. Because now, in the growing dawn light filtering through the trees, it began to shift. Bones reshaping, fur retreating, until a man stood before her, the most devastatingly beautiful man she'd ever seen. With midnight hair, those same golden eyes, and intricate tattoos covering his chest that seemed to move in the light. But she knew that face. Everyone in the 7 kingdoms knew that face. Kale Darkthorn, the Alpha King, the one they called the Blood Moon Tyrant, and he was staring at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. You, King Kale breathed, his voice rough from the shift, deep enough to vibrate through her bones. Do you know what you've just done? Liralai's knees gave out, but before she could hit the ground, he caught her one arm around her waist, pulling her against his bare chest. The contact sent lightning through her entire body, her healing marks glowing in response to his touch. Your Majesty, no. His golden eyes blazed. Not Your Majesty. Not after what just happened. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone with impossible gentleness. Do you feel it? She did. Goddess help her. She felt it, a pull like gravity, like every cell in her body recognizing his. The mate bond. The one thing she'd been told would never happen to someone like her. But I'm cursed, she whispered. The temple said. The temple lied. His voice turned dangerous. They've been lying about many things, including why they kept you hidden from me. Hidden? He pulled back just enough to look at her fully, his gaze traveling over her worn robes, her cracked hands, the exhaustion written in every line of her body. Rage flickered across his features. A true healer, he murmured. The firstborn in 3 generations, and they had you scrubbing floors. I'm not a true healer. I can only heal animals. And the words died as she realized. I healed you because I'm yours. The possession in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, It made her feel safe for the first time in her life. And you're mine. My mate. My queen. That's impossible. Is it? He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. Your power recognized me instantly. You pulled silver arrows from my body arrows that should have killed any wolf within minutes. You fought trained assassins to protect me before you even knew who I was. Dawn was breaking fully now, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. As the first true ray of sunlight hit them, Kale's expression changed to something almost reverent. The dawn blessing, he murmured. The ancient laws are clear. A mate bond recognized at dawn must be honored before the sun fully rises, or risk the goddess's wrath. What are you saying? Instead of answering, he dropped to his knees before her. The Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in 7 kingdoms, kneeling in the forest dirt before an orphan temple servant. I, K.L. Alexander Darkthorn, Alpha King of the 7 kingdoms, recognize you as my true mate, blessed by moon and witnessed by Sunday. His voice carried power that made the trees themselves seem to lean in. Will you accept my claim? Liralay's world tilted. Everything she'd been taught, everything she'd believed about herself, crumbled in the face of this impossible moment. I don't even know your favorite color, she said weakly. He laughed, a rich sound that transformed his face from terrifying to devastatingly handsome. It's midnight blue. I hate Brussels sprouts. I read poetry when no one's watching, and my wolf has been searching for you for 10 years. 10 years? Since the day I took the throne. The seers told me my mate would have golden hands and eyes like starlight. I've searched every kingdom, every temple, every healing house. His jaw clenched. They hid you well. The high priestess is a traitor who will answer for her crimes, but not today. He rose, pulling her up with him. Today, I claim what's mine. If you'll have me, Liralay thought of her life at the temple. The loneliness, the rejection, the constant feeling of wrongness. Then she looked at this man, this king who gazed at her like she hung the moon itself. I don't know how to be a queen. I don't care. The court will revolt. A cursed orphan as their queen? Let them try. Danger flickered in his eyes again. Anyone who challenges my mate challenges me. I'm nobody. You're everything. He stepped closer, crowding her against a tree. Say yes, Liralay. Please. She shouldn't. It was insane. She'd known him for all of an hour, but that pull in her chest, that recognition in her bones, it was undeniable. Yes, she whispered. His smile was victorious as he lowered his head, but before his lips could touch hers, a horn sounded in the distance. Then another, and another. Kale went rigid, his body shifting into a protective stance around her. The royal guard. They're coming. Is that bad? His expression darkened. Depends on whether they're still loyal to me or to the council that just tried to assassinate me. Footsteps thundered through the forest, many of them. Wolves appeared through the trees, surrounding them. Not in attack formation, but something close to it. A massive silver wolf shifted into a stern-faced woman in royal guard uniform. Your Majesty, the council demands your immediate return. There have been developments. What kind of developments, Captain Thorne? The woman's eyes flicked to Liralay, widening slightly. Lady Cassia has arrived from the Northern Territories. She states that as you're betrothed by treaty, any mate claim made without council approval is invalid. I have no betrothed. The council disagrees, sire. They're calling for a formal challenge. If your companion cannot prove her worth by sunset, the mate claim will be dissolved. Kale's growl made every wolf present bare their throat in submission, except one. Those are the ancient laws, Your Majesty, Captain Thorne said carefully. Even you cannot break them. Lirelei felt the world crashing down around her. Of course, it had been too good to be true, but Kale's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Then we'll face the challenge. He looked down at her, golden eyes burning with determination. Side by side. As they were escorted back toward the castle she'd only seen from a distance, Lirelei couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into a trap. The shadows between the trees seemed to whisper one word over and over. Pretender. The Shadow Crest castle rose from the mountain like it had been carved from a single piece of obsidian. Lirelei had seen it from the temple, distant, untouchable, wreathed in morning mist. Now, crossing the bridge over the void chasm, with Kale's hand possessively on her lower back, she felt like she was entering another world entirely. Steady, he murmured, feeling her tremor. I won't let anyone harm you. It's not harm I'm worried about, she admitted, watching the royal guard's suspicious glances. It's humiliation. They entered through massive doors that seemed to absorb light. The great hall beyond was already filled. Word traveled fast, apparently. Hundreds of wolves in human form, all dressed in finery that made Lirelei's torn robes look even worse. The whispers started immediately. Is that the temple servant? She smells like nobody, no pack, no lineage. The king's lost his mind. Kale's growl silenced them all. But the damage was done. Lirelei felt every dismissive stare like a physical weight. At the far end of the hall, on a throne of woven silver branches, sat a woman who could only be Lady Cassia. Hair like spun moonlight, eyes the pale blue of winter ice, wearing a dress that probably cost more than the temple's annual tithes. She was devastatingly beautiful in the way of pure-blooded alphas, refined, powerful, perfect, everything Lirelei wasn't. My beloved, Cassia purred, rising gracefully. I was so worried when I heard about the attack. Thank the goddess you're well. Her eyes slid to Lirelei with calculated dismissal. Though I see you've brought home a stray. Careful, Cassia, Kale warned. You address my mate. Your mate? Cassia laughed, a tinkling sound that somehow held venom. This unwashed temple orphan? Really, Kale? I know you enjoy your little rebellions, but this is excessive. Even for you. She descended from the throne platform, and Lirelei realized with a start that Cassia had been sitting on Kale's throne. The presumption of it made her newly awakened wolf snarl internally. The council has already gathered. Cassia continued, gesturing to a line of elderly wolves in ceremonial robes. Elder Mordain, would you kindly explain the situation to our guest? A wizened man stepped forward, but something felt wrong about him. His scent was off-layered somehow, as if two people stood in one space. Before Lirelei could voice her concern, he spoke. The Treaty of Three Rivers, signed by your father, King Kale, states that the northern and central territories would be unified through your marriage to Lady Cassia upon your 30th year. That year is now. My father signed many things while poisoned by wolfsbane wine, Kale said coldly. I don't recognize. The council recognized it. The false Mordain interrupted a shocking breach of protocol, as is our right when the king acts against kingdom interests. You cannot simply claim a random woman as mate to avoid your obligations. Random? Kal stepped forward, darkness coiling around his feet, a display of his rare shadow, wolf abilities. My true mate stands before you, recognized by the goddess herself at dawn, and you call her random? Prove it, Cassia said sweetly. If she's truly your mate, surely she can demonstrate it. She circled Lirelei like a predator. Can you shift? Little field mouse? No? How about pack bonds do you feel the castle pack? Of course not. You're nobody. She healed me, Kale snarled. So you say. But where are the witnesses? Cassia's smile sharpened. For all we know, you staged the entire thing to avoid our marriage. Lirelei found her voice. 3 wolves attacked him. Gray wolves with red eyes. One was scarred. How convenient that they all escaped, Cassia interrupted. No proof, no witnesses, just the word of someone who has every reason to lie. You question my word? Kale's power pressed against everyone present, making weaker wolves whimper. Never, my lord, the false Mordain said carefully, which is why we propose a simple solution. The trials of Luna. A collective gasp ran through the hall. Lirelei didn't know what that meant, but from Kale's expression, it wasn't good. The trials haven't been called in a century, he said quietly. Desperate times, Cassia said, examining her perfect nails. If she's truly your mate, truly meant to be queen, then surely the goddess will see her through 3 simple challenges. What challenges? Lirelei asked, though her voice came out smaller than intended. Cassia's smile was poison honey. First, the trial of blood, you must prove your healing power before the court. Second, the trial of bonds. You must be accepted by the castle pack. And third, she paused for effect, the trial of combat. You face me directly. Combat? Lirelei's stomach dropped. But I can't fight. Then you can't be queen. Cassia shrugged. A weak Luna makes a weak pack. Surely you understand that, little nobody. This is ridiculous, Kale started. But the false Mordain raised his hand. The law is clear. Any challenged mate claim must be validated through trials. Refuse, and the claim is void. Accept, another elder added. And should she fail any trial, the claim is dissolved, and the original treaty stands. Lirelei felt trapped. If she refused, Kale would be forced to marry Cassia. If she accepted, she'd humiliate herself and lose him anyway. When? Kale asked, his voice deadly quiet. Now, Cassia said brightly. Why wait? Unless your little mate needs time to prepare excuses for her failure. The challenge in her voice sparked something in Lirelei, that same fierce protectiveness that had made her face down assassins in the forest. I accept, she said, surprising everyone, including herself. Cassia's eyes glittered with triumph. Wonderful. Let's begin with something simple. Heal someone. Anyone. Surely the mate of our king can manage that. The crowd parted, revealing a figure on a stretcher. Lirelei's heart sank. It was Beta Marcus, Kale's second in command, covered in savage wounds that reeked of poison. He was attacked this morning, Cassia explained. By the same mysterious assassins, apparently. He's dying. Save him. Lirelei approached slowly, her hands already beginning to tingle, but with the wrong sensation. The closer she got, the more her power recoiled. It was happening again, the rejection, just like with every wolf except. She looked at Kale, understanding dawning. She could heal him because of their mate bond. But other wolves. Problem? Cassia asked sweetly. Marcus's breathing was getting shallower. The court watched with hungry eyes, waiting for her to fail. She reached out, touched his wound, and gasped as pain shot up her arms. Her healing light flickered and died. As expected, Cassia announced. She can't even. Stop! A new voice from the crowd. A young woman pushed forward Thea, one of the kitchen servants Lirelei had noticed earlier. She healed my daughter. What? Cassia snapped. This morning, my little girl. She's not shifted yet. Still mostly human. Cut herself badly on broken glass. This lady walked past our quarters and just fixed it. No ceremony, no payment. Just healed her because she was crying. Humans don't count, Cassia said dismissively. Then let her prove herself properly. another voice called. Captain Thorne stepped forward. There's something else she can heal, if she's truly what she claims. The captain gestured to the great hall's massive stained glass window, depicting the first Alpha King. But the window was wrong, cracked through the center, the break sealed with ugly black veins that pulsed with dark magic. The heartbreak, Thorne said simply. Our kingdom's curse manifested. Every healer for 3 generations has tried to fix it. None succeeded. Even Cassia looked uncertain now. The heartbreak was legend, a physical manifestation of an ancient betrayal, slowly poisoning the castle's magic. That's impossible, Kyle protested. No one can. I'll try, Lyralee interrupted. She approached the window and immediately felt it not rejection this time, but recognition. The crack called to her broken pieces, the poison to her cursed status, like to like. She pressed both hands against the glass. The hall erupted in gasps as golden light poured from her fingers, but this time it was different. The light was threaded with shadow. Kale's shadow, she realized. Their bond was lending her his power, and him hers. The black veins fought back, trying to corrupt her light. The poison whispered of betrayal, abandonment, loneliness, everything she'd ever felt. But not anymore, she thought fiercely. The crack began to seal, the poison burning away under their combined power. The window's colors brightened, restored to their original glory. When she stepped back, swaying on her feet, the hall was silent. Then Beta Marcus coughed, sitting up on his stretcher. The proximity to her amplified healing had cured him completely. Impossible, Cassia breathed. The first trial is passed, a new voice announced. The real Elder Mordain stepped from behind a pillar, his eyes clear and sharp. My apologies for the deception we had to ensure the false one, revealed himself. The impostor Mordain's disguise shimmered and fell away, revealing Vex Morpheus, a known dark mage who should have been in the dungeons. Seize him, Kale commanded, but Vex vanished in a puff of smoke. The trial of bonds begins at moonrise. The real Mordain continued. Prepare yourself, young Luna. The pack's judgment can be harsh. Kale's private chambers were a stark contrast to the great hall's cold grandeur. Warm furs, flickering firelight, and massive windows overlooking the valley. But Lyralee couldn't appreciate any of it. She was too busy trying not to panic. You shouldn't have accepted, Kyle said, pacing like his wolf. Cassia's been training for combat since birth. She's killed 17 challengers. And if I hadn't accepted? Lyralee sat on the edge of his bed, immediately regretting it when his scent overwhelmed her. You'd be forced to marry her. I'd rather die. The kingdom needs you alive. She watched him pace, noting the tension in his shoulders. There's something you're not telling me. He stopped, his back to her. The assassination attempt. It wasn't the first. The council has been moving against me for months, claiming I'm too unstable to rule without a proper Luna. And Cassia is their perfect puppet. Her family controls the northern armies. With her as queen, the council would have all the power. He turned to face her, golden eyes tormented. I've been searching for my true mate desperately, knowing it was the only way to maintain legitimate rule. And now I've found you, but I'm everything they can use against you, Lyralee finished quietly. An orphan, cursed, can't even shift. I don't care about any of that. But they do. And they're right, I can't fight Cassia. I can barely throw a punch. Kyle crossed to her in 3 strides, sitting beside her, taking her hands. The trials aren't just about physical prowess. The goddess judges worthiness through different measures. Pretty words won't help when Cassia's claws are at my throat. A knock interrupted them. Captain Thorne entered, her expression unreadable. Your Majesty, My lady, there's been a development. What now? Kale growled. The temple has sent a delegation. The high priestess demands Liralay's immediate return. She says the girl is temple property, bound by sacred vows. What? Liralay shot to her feet. I took no vows. I was a servant. The high priestess has documentation saying otherwise. Apparently, your parents sold you to the temple as an infant. The contract is extensive. Kale's power exploded outward, night spreading up the walls. She is my mate. Unconsummated, Thorn pointed out carefully. Until the mate bond is sealed completely, prior claims have standing. This is Cassia's doing, Liralee said with sudden certainty. She's trying to remove me before the trials. Undoubtedly. But the law is the law. Thorn hesitated. There is one solution. Speak, Call commanded. Complete the bond now. A consummated mate bond supersedes all other claims. Heat flooded Liralee's face. But we just met. It would solve the immediate problem. Thorn continued pragmatically. The temple couldn't touch you, though it would also make the trials more dangerous. How? A fresh mate bond makes both parties stronger, but also more vulnerable. If you're injured, he feels it. If you die, she trailed off meaningfully. I die too, Kale said simply. I'm willing to take that risk. You can't, Liralee started. There's more, Thorn interrupted. Scout reports from the borderlands. The gray wolves that attacked you, they've been identified. They're part of the Bloodfang Syndicate. Kale went very still. That's impossible. I destroyed the Bloodfangs years ago. Apparently not all of them. And, Your Majesty, they were hired by someone in this castle. Who? We don't know yet. But whoever it is has access to your private schedule, your routes, everything. Thorn's expression darkened. Someone in your inner circle wants you dead. A scream echoed from somewhere below, followed by howling. Thorn tensed. What now? Kyle demanded. The moon trials, Thorn realized. They've started early. The pack is gathering. They rushed to the courtyard to find chaos. The castle pack, over 200 wolves, had formed a circle in the moonlight. In the center stood Cassia, now in a dress that seemed to be made of starlight itself. The moon has risen, she announced, though something seemed off about her voice, strained, like she was fighting herself. The trial of bonds begins. The challenger must walk the pack circle and receive their judgment. Liralee saw the trap immediately. The pack would judge her not just as potential Luna, but as Cassia's replacement. And Cassia had had years to build loyalty. You don't have to do this now, Kale whispered. But backing down would be seen as weakness. Liralee stepped into the circle. The first wolf approached a young male who sneered at her. You smell wrong. Like prey, not predator. She has no wolf, another called. How can she lead us? Temple trash, someone spat. But then the young kitchen servant Thea stepped forward. She healed my child without being asked. That's more than Lady Cassia ever did. Silence, Omega, Cassia commanded, but her hand trembled. Your opinion means nothing. All pack voices matter, Captain Thorn said, entering the circle. That is our way. More voices rose, some defending, most condemning. Liralee stood in the center, feeling their judgment like physical blows. Her greatest fear was being confirmed. She didn't belong here. Then she felt it, a warmth in her chest, spreading outward. Not her power, but something else, something new. Trust me, Kyle's voice in her mind. The partial bond they'd formed was letting him speak to her. I can't do this, she responded, not sure how she knew to. You healed the heartbreak. You saved me. You are more than they know. The warmth spread further, and suddenly Liralee could feel them, every wolf in the circle. Their fears, their hopes, their pain. The pack bonds Cassia claimed she couldn't access were suddenly there, overwhelming in their intensity. "Stop it," Cassia snarled, her control visibly slipping. "Whatever you're doing," Lirelei gasped as the full weight of the pack's suffering hit her. They were poisoned, all of them, subtly, slowly. The same darkness that had infected the window was in their very bones. "You're all dying," she breathed, her healing power surging to life. "Someone's been poisoning the pack for months." The courtyard erupted in chaos at Lirelei's revelation, but she couldn't focus on the shouting. The pack's poison called to her healing power with devastating urgency. "Lies," Cassia shouted, though her voice cracked with what sounded like internal struggle. "She's trying to distract from her failure. Look at your own bones, Lady Cassia," Lirelei said quietly, her golden light beginning to emanate from her skin. "The black veins are already visible at your wrists. You've been poisoned longest of all." Cassia glanced down, her perfect composure finally breaking, as she saw the faint dark lines under her pale skin. "What? How?" "The question is who," Kale said, his voice carrying deadly promise. But Lirelei was already moving, drawn to the youngest pack members first. Her hands found a teenage wolf who'd been looking particularly pale. The moment she touched him, her power surged, pulling the poison out like drawing venom from a wound. Black mist rose from his skin, dissipating in the moonlight. "By the goddess," the boy whispered, "I can breathe properly for the first time in months." One by one, pack members approached her. Even those who'd condemned her moments before now looked at her with desperate hope. Lirelei worked through them systematically, her power growing stronger with each healing, as if the pack bonds were amplifying her gift. "This proves nothing," Cassia said, though she was visibly fighting to get the words out. "Any healer could." "Then why didn't you notice your pack was dying?" Thorn challenged. A true Luna would have felt their suffering. As Lirelei reached the elder wolves, she found the poison deeper, more entrenched. The real Elder Mordain was worst. Of all the darkness had nearly reached his heart. "This could kill you to heal," he warned her. "I've not been kind to you. Save your strength for others. A Luna protects all her pack," Lirelei replied, placing both hands on his chest. Even those who doubt her, the poison in him fought back viciously, sending spikes of pain up her arms. She felt Kale step closer, his presence strengthening her. Their partial bond pulsed, lending her his strength. Together, they pulled the darkness from the elder's body. When Mordain opened his eyes, they were clear for the first time in years. "The tea," he gasped. "Someone's been poisoning the ceremonial tea." Only the council and Lady Cassia drink it regularly. All eyes turned to Cassia, who had tears streaming down her face as she visibly battled something internal. "You think I poisoned myself?" she managed to say. "To throw off suspicion?" Thorn suggested. "Or you're another victim," Lirelei said, approaching her. "May I?" Cassia jerked back, but then seemed to win her internal battle for a moment. "Please," she whispered. "Something's wrong with my mind." The moment Lirelei touched her, she knew the truth. Cassia was more victim than villain. The poison in her was different, designed to enhance aggression, diminish empathy, and make her susceptible to suggestions. "You're being controlled," Lirelei said softly, pulling the poison free. "Someone's been altering your emotions, making you more cruel than your nature." Cassia's eyes cleared completely, and she collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "Oh, goddess, the things I've said, done." She looked at Kale in horror. "The marriage contract my father forced me, but I was supposed to just go through the motions. But then the whispers started, telling me I had to be ruthless, had to destroy any competition. Who? Kale demanded. Who's been whispering? I don't know. The voice was never the same. Sometimes male, sometimes female, always in shadows. The ceremonial bell rang 13 times an impossibility, as it should only ring 12. The trial of bonds, Elder Mordain said shakily. It must be completed. The pack had reformed their circle, but their energy was different now. One by one, they began to howl not the aggressive challenge from before, but something else. Acceptance. Welcome. She healed us. She saw what we couldn't. She treated us all as pack, even those who scorned her. The howling grew louder, harmonizing into something beautiful. Even Cassia stepped forward. I withdraw my challenge, she announced. This woman has proven herself more Luna in 1 hour than I could in a lifetime. But her face paled. Whoever poisoned us is still here. They're in my mind sometimes. I can feel them trying to get back in even now that I'm cleansed. As if in response, every torch in the courtyard suddenly extinguished. In the darkness, a voice whispered neither male nor female, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. The little healer thinks she's won, but the third trial isn't what you think. Blood will spill before dawn, and the throne will fall. When the torches reignited, a message was burned into the courtyard stones. The true enemy wears a trusted face. Kale pulled Lirale close, his body tense with protective rage. Around them, the pack pressed closer, their loyalty now absolute. But the warmth of their acceptance couldn't chase away the chill of that prophetic threat. The war room beneath Shadowcrest Castle was supposedly impenetrable, warded by a dozen generations of Alpha Kings, accessible only to those of royal blood. Yet as Kale traced battle plans with his most trusted advisors, Lirale couldn't shake the feeling that death itself was watching them. The Bloodfang Syndicate has strongholds here, here, and here. Captain Thorn marked the map with red stones. But someone inside these walls is funding them. The poison supplier, Beta Marcus added, his newly healed body still weak, but his mind sharp. Whoever's been contaminating the ceremonial tea has access to the castle's highest security areas. That narrows it to less than 20 people, Kyle said, his golden eyes scanning those present. His war council, Thorn, Marcus, Elder Mordain, the castle's healer Sage Amara, his childhood mentor General Wraith, and keeper of ravens Silas. Each had served the crown for decades. Lirale stood beside Kale's chair, still feeling out of place despite the pack's acceptance. The mate bond hummed between them, incomplete but growing stronger. She could feel his suspicion, his struggle to doubt people he'd trusted his whole life. My lord, Sage Amara spoke, her ancient voice thoughtful. The poison is alchemical, not natural. Only someone trained in the old arts could create it. How many in the castle have such training? Kale asked. Myself, obviously. Silas, for his work with Raven messages. And, she hesitated, your father's last advisor, who should be in the dungeons. Vex Morpheus. General Wraith spat the name. I told you we should have executed him. He escaped earlier, disguised as Elder Mordain. He's been free this whole time, Kale realized. How did we not know? A raven burst through the window impossible, given the wards. It dropped a scroll at Kale's feet before disintegrating into shadow. Kyle read it, his face paling. The temple. It's under attack. Lirale's heart stopped. What? The high priestess is dead. Most of the novices evacuated, but the building, he looked at her with anguish. It's burning, no stone left standing. Even though the temple had been cruel to her, those who'd escaped were just children, innocent. Who would? There's more, Kale continued grimly. A message written in the ashes. The false mate brings only death. Return what was stolen, or the castle burns next. It's a trap, Thorn said immediately. They're trying to draw you out. It's my fault, Lirale whispered. If I hadn't left, you'd be dead, Kale said firmly. This isn't your fault, but the message could mean anything. Return what was stolen might refer to the throne itself. Elder Mordane's newly clear eyes were troubled. Your Majesty, there are things about your father's death you don't know. The room went silent. Speak, Kal commanded, though his voice suggested he didn't want to hear it. Your father didn't die of illness. He was murdered, but not by enemies, by his own brother, who believed the throne was stolen from him. My uncle died in the Eastern Wars 10 years ago. His body was never found, General Wraith said quietly. We told you he died to spare you the truth. He turned traitor, joined the Bloodfangs. Kale stood slowly, darkness writhing around him. You all knew this? We were sworn to secrecy by your father as he died, Sage Amara admitted. He didn't want you hunting your uncle instead of ruling. And now? Kael's voice was deadly quiet, the calm before devastation. Now we believe he's returned. Silas finally spoke, his crowkeeper's rasp barely audible. The poison, the assassination attempts, the timing, it all points to someone with intimate knowledge of the royal family. Where is he? No one answered. Where is he? Kael roared, his power shaking the entire castle. That's when Lirale felt it, a void in the room, an absence where someone should be. Her newly awakened pack sense screamed danger. Wait, she said. Someone's missing. Where's... The door exploded inward. Vex Morpheus stood there, not imprisoned, not weakened, but radiating dark power. Beside him stood someone who made Kael stagger. His uncle, Theron Darkthorn, very much alive, wearing a crown of twisted iron. Hello, nephew, Theron smiled. I believe you've been sitting in my chair. The betrayal came swift and brutal. General Wraith moved first, not to defend Kael, but to grab Lirale, a knife at her throat. Wraith? Kael's voice broke. You raised me. I raised the son of the man who murdered my true king. Wraith snarled. Theron was the rightful heir. Your father stole the throne through trickery. Lies. Truth. Sage Amara said sadly, then shocked everyone by walking to Theron's side. Your father used dark magic to kill Theron's mate, making him go mad with grief. While Theron recovered in the east, your father claimed the throne. You too? Kael looked devastated. The poison was my creation, Amara admitted, designed to weaken pack bonds, make them easier to control, though I didn't expect your mate to detect it so quickly. Lirale couldn't breathe. Two of Kael's most trusted advisors, traitors. Only Thorn, Marcus, Silas, and the real Mordane remained loyal, but they were outnumbered, surrounded by Bloodfang wolves flooding the room. Here's what happens now, Theron said conversationally. You abdicate. Sign the throne over to its rightful heir. Your mate bond is dissolved, the girl dies, as a symbol that the goddess rejects your claim. Never, Kael snarled. No? Then we do this the hard way. Theron nodded to Wraith, who pressed the knife harder against Lirale's throat, drawing blood. The scent of her blood made Kael's control snap. He shifted partially, shadows exploding outward, but Vex was ready, throwing silver-laced chains that wrapped around Kael, burning his skin. Special chains, Vex explained, forged with the bones of your ancestors. Poetic, isn't it? You're monsters, Lirale gasped. We're revolutionaries, Theron corrected. Tell him, Silas. Tell him what his father really did. Everyone turned to the crowkeeper, who looked ancient with grief. It's true, Your Majesty, Your father did kill Lady Sarah, Theron's mate. But nothing, Theron roared. He stole everything from me. My mate, my throne, my sanity. And now I take it back. Starting with your mate. Wraith whispered to Kale. Watch her die, knowing you're powerless. But as the knife moved to slash, something extraordinary happened. Marcus, sweet, loyal Marcus, suddenly drove his sword through Wraith's back. Did you really think, Marcus panted as Wraith collapsed, that I'd let you hurt my family? The room erupted into chaos. But in the confusion, Lirelei heard Theron shout something that chilled her blood. Now, nephew, show her your true nature. Vex's chains glowed, and Kale screamed not in pain, but in transformation. The chains weren't just silver-laced. They were cursed, designed to force a wolf into their most primal, savage state. Kale's shadow wolf form erupted, larger than ever, but wrong eyes pure red, reasoning gone, only beast remaining. He turned toward Lirelei with no recognition, only hunger. Kale? She whispered. He lunged. Lirelei dodged, barely, his claws raking the stone where she'd stood. This wasn't her mate. This was pure predator, and she was prey. The curse will make him kill everyone he loves. Vex laughed. Starting with you. Unless what? Lirelei demanded, dodging another attack. Unless you kill him first. It's the only way to break the curse, the loved one's willing sacrifice. Captain Thorn was fighting 3 bloodfangs at once. Marcus was bleeding badly from his own fight. Elder Mordain was shielding himself with ancient wards. Silas had released his ravens, but they couldn't get close to the cursed Kale. And Kale, her Kale was gone, replaced by a monster wearing his face. Choose quickly. Theron taunted. Kill him, or be killed by him. Either way, I win. That's when Lirelei did something no one expected. She stopped running, stood perfectly still as the cursed wolf stalked toward her. I know you're in there, she said softly. The man who knelt in the forest, who reads poetry, who hates Brussels sprouts. The wolf paused, head tilting. You're mine, she continued, stepping forward despite every instinct screaming danger. And I'm yours. No curse can change that. The wolf snarled, preparing to strike, and Lirelei began to sing. It was an old lullaby from the temple, one she'd hummed while scrubbing floors. But now, with her power flowing through it, the song became something more. The golden light that poured from her wasn't healing, it was pure love, set to melody. The cursed wolf froze. Red eyes flickered, showing glimpses of gold. That's impossible, Vex breathed. No one can break a blood curse with. Lirelei's song grew stronger, and she reached out, placing her hand on the wolf's massive head. The moment they touched, her power exploded, not just golden now, but threaded with silver, with starlight, with something ancient and unstoppable. The chains shattered, the curse broke. And Kale collapsed, human again, gasping in her arms. How? Theron demanded. Because, a new voice said from the doorway, she's not just a healer. Everyone turned to see Cassia standing there, but different, her eyes glowing with prophetic power. Speaking in a voice not entirely her own. The prophecy you all forgot, she continued, her words echoing with truth. When the realm faces its darkest betrayal, the healer queen will rise. Not wolf born but wolf chosen. Not powerful but power itself. She who walks between life and death, who binds the broken, who makes the cursed blessed. No, Theron stepped back. The prophecy was destroyed. Prophecies can't be destroyed, Cassia, divided by the oracle, said. Only hidden. And now, it fulfills itself. Lirelei stood, helping Kale to his feet. Where the curse had touched them, new marks appeared, matching tattoos of light and shadow, marking them as something beyond ordinary mates. "You want the throne?" Lirelei asked Theron, her voice carrying new authority. "Then face us properly. No tricks, no curses, just truth." "Truth?" Theron laughed bitterly. "You want truth? Here's truth. Your precious king's father was a murderer who built his throne on innocent blood." "Then prove it," Lirelei challenged, her newfound power still crackling around her. "Not with violence, but with evidence." "Evidence?" Theron's composure cracked. "I held my mate's body as she died. Isn't that evidence enough?" "Your pain is real," Lirelei said softly. "But pain doesn't always mean truth. Kyle, the chains, they were meant to do more than curse you. They were bonded with ancestral memory." Kale nodded slowly, understanding. "When they broke, I saw fragments, images." He faced his uncle. "You're right that my father killed Sarah, but not why you think." "Don't you dare." "She was infected," Kale continued. "The first victim of a plague that would have destroyed all shifters. A weapon created by the human purists who wanted our kind extinct. Father had to choose, let her live and infect the entire kingdom, or lies," Theron roared, but doubt flickered in his eyes. That's when Silas stepped forward, pulling out an ancient journal. "I've kept this hidden for 20 years. Your brother's private writings, Theron." He agonized over that choice. "Look." With shaking hands, Theron took the journal. As he read, his face went white. "No, this can't be." "Father tried to tell you," Kale said quietly. "But in your grief, you attacked him, nearly killed him. He let everyone believe you died in the wars, rather than admit his brother had gone mad." "But Vex said," Theron turned to the dark mage, who was trying to edge toward the door. "Did you really think," Vex sneered, dropping all pretense, "that I cared about your claim? You were a tool, nothing more. A way to destabilize the kingdom for my true masters." "Who?" Kale demanded. But Vex was already dissolving into shadow. "The human purists never forgot, young king. They're coming. And your little half-blood mate just painted a target on." Captain Thorne's sword went through him before he could finish, but his body turned to smoke, escaping through the cracks. "We'll find him," she vowed. Theron had collapsed, the journal clutched to his chest, sobbing. 20 years. 20 years of hatred for nothing, Sarah. My Sarah would be ashamed. "No." Lirelei knelt beside him. She'd understand. Grief makes us all monsters sometimes. The question is, what do you do now? Before Theron could answer, Marcus groaned from where he'd fallen. The wound from his fight with Wraith was worse than they'd thought, black veins spreading from it. "Poison blade," he gasped. "Should have known. Wraith never fought fair." Lirelei rushed to him, but when she touched the wound, her power recoiled. This poison was different, specifically designed to resist healing magic. "I can't," she started, then felt Kael's hand on her shoulder. "Together," he said, like with the window. They joined hands over Marcus, their combined power flowing shadow and light, death and life, perfectly balanced. The poison fought viciously, but against their united strength, it stood no chance. As Marcus healed, gasping with relief, a raven flew through the window, one of Silas's, carrying urgent news. "The castle is surrounded," Silas translated. "An army of humans and corrupted wolves. They're demanding the abomination mate be surrendered, or they'll burn everything." "The purists," Kale growled. "How did they mobilize so quickly?" "They've been planning this," Elder Mordain realized. "The assassination attempts, the challenges, even Theron's return, all distractions, while they gathered their forces. Through the window, they could see torches, hundreds of them, encircling Shadowcrest. We're outnumbered 3-1, Thorn reported. And half our forces are still recovering from the poison. Then we negotiate, Cassia suggested, her prophetic glow fading but her mind sharp. Buy time. No. Lirelei stood. No more running. No more hiding. She looked at each of them. They want me because I'm different. Because I proved their worst fear that the boundaries between human and wolf aren't as solid as they pretend. Lirelei, Kale started. The prophecy, Cassia spoke, it's not complete, is it? She turned to the oracle-touched woman. Cassia shook her head. There's more. In the hour of greatest division, she will unite what was separated. The choice of one becomes the salvation of all. Then I know what to do. Lirelei moved toward the door. You're not going out there alone, Kale said firmly. Not alone. She took his hand. Never alone. But they need to see us. All of us. What we really are. Which is? She smiled. And in that moment, she looked ancient and young, powerful and gentle, everything and nothing all at once. The future. They stood on the castle's highest balcony, Kale and Lirelei, with their allies behind them. Below, the army waited, a mixture of human zealots and wolves corrupted by promises of power. At their head stood High Commander Aldrich, the leader of the purist movement. There she is! Aldrich shouted, pointing at Lirelei. The abomination, the curse that will destroy our pure bloodlines. I am no curse. Lirelei's voice carried impossibly far, her power amplifying it. I am proof that the divisions you cling to are lies. Lies? Aldrich laughed. You cannot shift, yet claim to be Luna. You pollute the royal bloodline with your human weakness. Weakness? Lirelei stepped forward. Let me show you weakness. She raised her hand, and every torch in the army's possession extinguished. Darkness fell like a curtain, but only for the attackers. The castle remained bathed in soft, golden light, emanating from Lirelei herself. Your torches burn with hatred, she said. My light comes from love. Which do you think is stronger? Tricks won't. Save you, Aldrich snarled. Attack! The army surged forward, but Lirelei didn't retreat. Instead, she began to pull not healing but something else. Every corrupted wolf in the army suddenly screamed, black mist pouring from them as she ripped the corruption from their souls. Impossible, someone gasped. She's healing them from a distance, hundreds at once. But the effort was too much. Lirelei swayed, blood running from her nose. Kale caught her, but she was already falling, her body convulsing. Too many, she gasped. The corruption. It's fighting back. That's when the purists' real weapon revealed itself. From their ranks rose a figure in black robes, a null mage, one who could cancel magic itself. Did you think we came unprepared? Aldrich laughed as the null's power slammed into Lirelei like a physical blow. Your magic is useless now, Lirelei screamed, her golden light flickering, dying. The partial mate bond she shared with Kale turned to agony, making him stagger. Let her go, Kale roared, but his shadow powers were also nullified. Watch her die, false king. Then you'll follow. The null mage raised his staff, prepared to deliver the killing blow, when Theron stepped between them. Uncle? Kale gasped. My whole life, I blamed the wrong person for Sarah's death, Theron said quietly. I won't let another innocent mate die for my mistakes. The null's magic hit him full force. Without powers to nullify, it attacked his life force directly. Theron aged decades in seconds, his hair going white, skin wrinkling, but still he stood. You want to kill her? He rasped at Aldrich. You'll have to go through the rightful heir first. You're no heir. You're a traitor and a fool. Yes. Theron smiled sadly. But I'm a fool who finally understands. She's not weakening our blood, she's saving it. We've been inbreeding for so long we're dying out. But her, she's evolution. The Null Mage struck again, and Theron fell to his knees. But his sacrifice had bought precious seconds. In those moments, something extraordinary happened. The humans in Kale's castle, servants, craftsmen, those without wolf blood, stepped forward. You threaten our Luna? Thea, the kitchen servant, stood with a cleaver in hand. She healed my daughter when no noble would even look at us. She treats us as equals, another shouted. More voices rose, not just from the castle, but from the surrounded army. The corrupted wolves she'd freed were remembering themselves, turning on their former allies. This is what you fear, Lyrily managed to say, pushing herself up despite the Null's oppressive power. Unity, acceptance, a world where bloodline matters less than heart. Kill them all, Aldrich commanded desperately. But the tide had turned. The freed wolves refused to fight. The human servants stood ready to defend their Luna. And in that moment of chaos, Silas's ravens descended, thousands of them, pecking and clawing at the Null Mage. His concentration broke for just an instant. That's all Lyrale needed. Her power erupted, not golden now, but every color at once, a rainbow of pure life force. It wasn't healing or harming, it was truth itself, showing everyone present their deepest nature. Some fell to their knees, weeping at their own cruelty. Others stood taller, seeing their hidden strength. Aldrich himself screamed, clawing at his eyes, as he saw the fear and hatred that had consumed his soul. When the light faded, the battlefield had changed entirely. In the aftermath of Lyrale's revelation of truth, the battlefield resembled a scene from prophecy itself. Former enemies knelt weeping, finally seeing the poison of hatred that had consumed them. But Aldrich still stood, though trembling, his eyes wild with fanatic fervor. "Illusions!" he screamed. "Don't let her false visions deceive you. She's corrupting your minds." From his robes, he pulled out a vial of crimson liquid blood magic, the darkest kind. "No," Elder Mordain shouted. "That's life render. It will—" Aldrich drank it in one gulp. His body convulsed, twisted, expanded. Where a human had stood, something else emerged, neither man nor wolf, but a monstrous hybrid of exposed muscle and elongated bone. The very thing the purists claimed to fight against. He'd become in his desperation. "If I must become abomination to destroy abomination," he growled, his voice no longer human. "So be it." He lunged toward Lyrale with inhuman speed. Kale intercepted, their collision shaking the castle's foundations. But Aldrich's blood magic-fueled strength was overwhelming, and he threw Kale aside like a toy. "Your Majesty." Thorn and Marcus moved to help, but corrupted purist soldiers, still loyal despite everything, blocked their path. Aldrich advanced on Lyrale, who stood her ground despite exhaustion. "Your light shows truth? Then see mine the truth that humans and wolves were never meant to mix." He struck, claws extended, but Lyrale caught them, not with her hands, with her power itself, solidified into barriers of pure energy. But the strain was visible, blood now running from her ears as well as her nose. "You're killing yourself," Aldrich laughed. "All for animals who will never truly accept you." "Wrong," Lyrale gasped. Behind her, something unprecedented happened. Every wolf in the courtyard, former enemies and allies alike, began to howl in unison. Not just sound, but power, their pack bonds connecting through her, lending her their strength. Even Cassia, still touched by prophecy, added her voice. She who unites what was separated. The human servants joined in, not howling, but singing the same lullaby Lirelei had used to break Kale's curse. Wolf and human voices merged into something that had never been heard before. True unity. Lirelei's power exploded outward. No longer just hers, but theirs, all of theirs. The barriers holding Aldrich didn't just strengthen. They began to purify him, burning away the blood magic's corruption. No, Aldrich fought, but he was one against hundreds. This isn't possible, the prophecies said. The prophecies said exactly this. A new voice interrupted. Through the crowd walked an ancient figure, the oracle herself, the original seer who'd spoken the prophecy centuries ago, thought long dead. You, Aldrich gasped. You told us the half-blood would destroy everything. I told you she would destroy the divide, the oracle corrected. You heard what your fear wanted to hear. She turned to Lirelei. Child, the time has come. Show them what you truly are. I don't understand. You're not just a healer. You're the bridge, the first of a new kind. Show them. Lirelei looked at Kale, who nodded despite his injuries. Their bond pulsed between them, incomplete still, but stronger for all they'd faced. Together? He asked one final time. Always and forever, she replied. They joined hands, and the mate bond finally, fully snapped into place. The surge of power knocked everyone to their knees, even Aldrich in his monstrous form. But it wasn't destruction, it was transformation. Lirelei began to change, not shifting like a wolf, but something entirely new. Her skin took on a subtle golden sheen. Her eyes became molten gold with starbursts of silver. Behind her, wings unfurled, not physical, but made of pure light and shadow intertwined. She was human and more, wolf and beyond. The evolution, the oracle whispered reverently, not replacing either race but becoming something that encompasses both. Aldrich tried to attack one more time, but Lirelei simply touched his forehead. The blood magic burned away, leaving just a man broken, aged by his own hatred but human again. I don't. He stared at his normal hands. What am I now? Yourself, Lirelei said gently, without the fear and hatred. The question is, who do you choose to be? Aldrich collapsed, sobbing. Around the battlefield, weapons dropped. The war was over, not through victory, but through understanding. But the price had been paid. Theron, who'd taken the Null Mage's attack, lay dying. Lirelei knelt beside him, trying to heal, but he stopped her. No, he whispered. This is right. My redemption. Tell Sarah, when you see her in the between. Tell her I finally understood. I will, Lirelei promised, tears streaming. Theron smiled, looking at Kale. You have a magnificent mate. Protect her. She's the future we never imagined possible. He died with peace on his face, the first casualty to become the last. As dawn broke another dawn, marking the completion of an impossible journey, the assembled crowd began to kneel, not in submission, but in recognition. The healer queen, they murmured. The bridge, the unity. But Lirelei helped them stand. No kneeling, not anymore. We stand together, or not at all. Vex appeared one last time, manifesting from shadow at the castle's edge. This isn't over. The purists have deeper roots than. Silas's ravens descended on him en masse, and this time, he couldn't escape. They pecked and clawed until his physical form dissipated permanently, his last scream echoing across dimensions. Now it's over, Silas said firmly. As the sun fully rose, Lirelei stood with Kale, overlooking their kingdom changed, challenged, but ultimately unified. The girl who'd started with nothing had become everything, not through power but through love. What happens now? someone called out. Lirelei smiled, her transformed features radiant in the morning light. Now we build, together, a kingdom where no one is cursed for being different, where strength isn't measured in blood purity but in character. She looked at Cassia, who nodded and stepped forward. The North stands with the crown, not through forced marriage, but through chosen alliance. More voices rose, pledges of loyalty not to a pure bloodline, but to an ideal. 3 days after the battle, Shadowcrest Castle hosted something unprecedented, combined coronation and mating ceremony that welcomed everyone, regardless of race or rank. The Great Hall, once a symbol of exclusive power, now opened its doors to all. Lirelei stood before the ancient crown, but she didn't immediately take it. This crown represents centuries of division, she said, addressing the packed hall, of believing some blood is worth more than others. She touched the crown, and it began to change under her fingers, the harsh iron softening, twining with gold, embedded with stones that seemed to hold starlight. This new crown represents unity, and I won't wear it alone. 2 crowns now sat where one had been equal in beauty and power. She and Kale crowned each other, their joined hands glowing with that perfect balance of shadow and light. Your Majesties, Elder Mordain intoned, by the old laws and the new, you are mates and monarchs, bound in body and soul. But the ceremony wasn't done. Lirelei turned to the crowd. Cassia, step forward. The northern princess approached uncertainly. You were poisoned, manipulated, used as a weapon against your will, yet you broke free and stood with us. Will you accept a position as royal oracle, using your gift to guide the kingdom? Cassia's eyes widened. But I was your enemy. You were a victim who became an ally. That transformation matters more than past conflicts. Then, yes, I accept. Captain Thorne, the warrior woman stepped forward. You've served 3 kings with honor. Will you continue as royal general, but now also as trainer for our new integrated guard, wolves and humans fighting side by side? With pride, Your Majesty. One by one, Lirelei appointed a new council not based on bloodline, but on merit and heart. Marcus as Beta, despite his moment of near betrayal. Silas as keeper of secrets and ravens. Even some of the former purists who genuinely repented were offered positions of service, not power. When she reached Sage Amara, who stood in chains, the hall went silent. You created the poison that nearly destroyed us, Lirelei said. I did, Amara admitted. I await your judgment. You were motivated by a twisted loyalty to Theron, believing you were righting an ancient wrong. But you also healed many over your years of service. That doesn't erase my crimes. No, but it means you have knowledge we need. I sentence you to life. Life spent creating antidotes to every poison you know. Life spent teaching healing to anyone who wishes to learn, human or wolf. Life spent in service, not imprisonment. Amara's tears fell freely. You offer mercy I don't deserve. I offer the chance for redemption. What you do with it is your choice. As the appointments concluded, a small voice piped up from the crowd. Thea's daughter, the child Lirelei had healed, pushed forward with a bouquet of wildflowers. For the Luna Queen, she said shyly. Because you remembered us when nobody else did. Lirelei knelt, accepting the flowers. And you remind me why we changed everything. You all the children will grow up in a world where your worth isn't determined by whether you can shift. Will I be able to do magic like you? Maybe. Or maybe you'll do something entirely different. The point is, you'll have the choice. As night fell, the celebration moved to the courtyard. Where the threatening message had been burned into stone, now grew a garden, Theron's final project, completed by volunteers. Moonflowers bloomed everywhere, their scent carrying on the wind. Kale pulled Lirelei aside for a moment of privacy. No regrets? How could I regret this? She gestured to the celebration, wolves and humans dancing together, former enemies laughing, children playing without fear. You nearly died. Multiple times. And you saved me. We saved each other. She leaned into him, feeling their bond pulse with contentment. Theron was right about one thing. I am evolution. But not alone. What we are together, what this kingdom is becoming, that's the real evolution. The oracle spoke to me privately, Kale said. She said, this is just the beginning. Other kingdoms will resist. There will be challenges. Then we'll face them. Together, he finished, smiling. I know, but she also said something else. About our children. Lirelei's hand moved to her stomach, where she'd recently sensed new life growing. They'll be like me, won't they? Bridge children. The first of many, according to the oracle. A new generation that proves unity is possible. Then we'd better make sure the world is ready for them. 5 years later, the autumn festival filled the valley with laughter and light. What had once been a celebration only for the elite now welcomed all wolves, humans, and the growing number of bridge children who were both and neither. Lirelei stood on the same balcony where she'd once faced an army, but now she watched celebration instead of conflict. Her twins, Luna and Sol, played in the courtyard below, their unusual nature evident in every movement. Luna could partial shift, taking on wolf ears and tail while remaining human. Sol couldn't shift at all, but could speak to any animal, calming the most savage beast with a touch. Brooding again? Kale wrapped his arms around her, his chin resting on her shoulder. Reflecting, the summit of kingdoms is next week. Ah yes, where 5 neighboring kingdoms will try to convince us we're destroying the natural order, and we'll show them what we've built instead. She turned in his arms. Did you see Marcus's daughter yesterday? She healed a bird, a human child with healing gifts. The boundaries really are breaking down, evolving, she corrected. The oracle says by the next generation, the distinction between human and wolf might not exist at all. Does that frighten you? Change always does. But look, she gestured to the courtyard where former enemies now worked side by side. Sage Amara, freed from her chains after 3 years of faithful service, taught healing to a mixed class. Cassia, her oracle powers fully developed, guided young prophets, regardless of their blood. Captain Thorn trained guards where skill mattered more than species. Mom, Dad. Saul's voice carried on the wind he'd inherited Lirelei's power to project. Aunt Cassia says the oracle wants to see you. They found the ancient oracle in Theron's garden, sitting among the moonflowers. She smiled as they approached, her blind eyes somehow seeing everything. The threads of fate have shifted, she said without preamble. The bridge you've built here spreads. 3 kingdoms have already begun integration secretly. Within a decade, the old ways will exist only in memory. But, Kyle prompted, sensing there was more. But nothing. I came to tell you my time is ending, and I wanted to thank you. She reached for Lirelei's hand. You did more than fulfill prophecy, you exceeded it. The world I saw possible is less beautiful than the one you're creating. We had help, Lirelei said. Every person who chose courage over fear. Yes, and that's why you'll succeed where force would fail. You're not conquering, you're inspiring. The oracle stood, suddenly looking younger. I have one last prophecy, not of warning but of promise. Your children's children will know a world without the divisions that nearly destroyed us. And they'll tell stories of the Luna who couldn't shift, and the king who loved her anyway, who together changed everything. She walked toward the garden's heart, where the moonflowers grew thickest. Give Theron my regards when you place flowers on his memorial. Between one blink and the next, she was gone, not dead, but transformed into light itself, spreading across the kingdom like a blessing. That evening, as the festival reached its peak, Elder Mordain called for silence. 5 years ago, a servant girl saved a dying wolf in the forest. That single act of kindness, spending her last coins on a tool, stranger changed the fate of kingdoms. He raised his cup to Queen Lirelei, who taught us that strength isn't in purity, but in unity. The crowd roared approval, but Lirelei stepped forward. To all of us, every person who chose love over fear, acceptance over division, we built this together. As the celebration continued under stars that seemed to shine brighter than ever, Luna and Sol ran to their parents laughing. Luna had a scraped knee that Sol was trying to heal with his rudimentary powers. Like this, Lirelei showed them, her golden light merging with Sol's silver one. The scrape disappeared instantly. Healing works best when we work together. Like everything, Luna said wisely. Like everything, Kale agreed, lifting both children as they squealed with delight. As midnight approached, bringing another dawn to follow, Lirelei looked at her family, her kingdom, her impossible beautiful life, and knew with absolute certainty every moment of pain had been worth it for this. The girl who'd been nothing had become everything. The kingdom that had been divided now stood united. And the future, once so dark, now blazed with infinite possibility. In the forest where it all began, new moonflowers bloomed wild, where blood had once been spilled. Nature's own memorial to the truth that love, in the end, conquers all.